Welcome to the deep dive, where we extract the most important insights from compelling sources, helping you get well informed quickly. Today, we're diving into something really foundational. It's about connecting and making a difference. Think about someone like Anjali, star student, great athlete in high school, everything seemed perfect. Then college starts, and suddenly, there's this sadness, this loss of interest, just loss. Her coach suggests talking to someone, a helper. And through that relationship, Anjali starts exploring those feelings, understanding the loneliness, finding her way again. So imagine you were Anjali's helper. How would you even start? What would you do?
It's a really powerful scenario, isn't it? And it highlights something important. We might all feel this urge to help, but there's actually a specific set of skills, a whole framework that professional helpers use. And this deep dive, it's kind of a shortcut to understanding those core elements, drawing from a really key text in the field, Clara E. Hill's Helping Skills.
Right, those foundational bits we might just skip over otherwise. So today we're really going to dig into chapter 1 of Hill's book, not just summarizing, but pulling out those practical insights you can actually use. We'll figure out what helping really is, look at how effective it is, and some surprising pitfalls too.
Wow.
We'll explore why people even seek help in the first place, and then map out the crucial parts and, importantly, the learning process for becoming an effective helper yourself.
Exactly. And for you, maybe you're a college student heading towards counseling or psychology practice, this stuff isn't just theory. It's not abstract. It's really about understanding the why and the how behind making a genuine, maybe even transformative difference in someone's life. It grounds it all in, practical reality.
Okay, let's unpack it then, starting right at the beginning.
Yeah,
What is helping? In the broadest sense, it's just giving assistance.
it is. But for our purposes, we're narrowing that focus.
Huh.
We're talking mainly about verbal help, the kind of interaction that encourages someone to explore their own personal emotional concerns.
Gotcha. Verbal help.
Yeah. And it's really important to see helping as this big umbrella term. Underneath that, you find more specific professional fields like counseling and psychotherapy.
Huh?
Researchers like Wampold and Amel, they define psychotherapy quite clearly. It's a focused, interpersonal treatment based on solid psychological principles.
Okay.
It's delivered by someone trained to do it, and it's always tailored, individualized, aiming for intentional, remedial change.
So if we break down the roles,
Yeah.
you've got the helper, that's maybe you listening, providing the assistance, and the client, the person getting support. But you're saying it's not like going to a mechanic to get your car fixed.
Exactly. Not at all. It's deeply collaborative. Think of it this way. The client is the expert on their own life. They have the power of the agency to change. The helper, they're more like a guide, a facilitator for that process, a sounding board, maybe using specific skills to help the client explore.
Okay, that makes sense. Collaboration, not fixing.
Precisely. And, even between terms like counseling and psychotherapy, sometimes people draw these sharp lines. Master's level versus doctoral, adjustment issues versus severe pathology, short-term versus long-term.
Right.
But the interesting thing is, research hasn't consistently shown that outcomes are actually different based on the therapist's degree or even how long treatment lasts.
Really?
Yeah. It kind of suggests that some of those distinctions might, unfortunately, be more about professional turf wars than about real differences in competence or effectiveness in practice.
Wow. Okay. That's quite something. So how does this professional helping differ from just chatting with a friend? We all try to help our friends, right?
We do, and those skills are valuable, but professional helping is different. Think about a typical conversation with a friend. It's usually pretty balanced, maybe 50-50 sharing.
Yeah.
In a helping relationship, it's often more like an 80-20 rule. The client does most of the talking, the sharing, the exploring. The helper does most of the listening, guiding, supporting.
80-20. Oh,
But the good news is, a lot of the communication skills you already use, listening well, showing empathy, they absolutely transfer. You're often refining skills you already possess, not starting totally from scratch.
that's encouraging. So we have a better idea of what helping is. Now, the big question, does this stuff actually work? Is therapy effective? Or is it just, talking?
That's a fair question, and the research evidence is, well, pretty overwhelming at this point. Therapy works.
Okay.
Its effectiveness is considered firmly established. It's really not debated much in the scientific community anymore. Wampold and Amel, for instance, synthesize a lot of research showing most clients genuinely improve. Significantly. Get this. The average therapy client ends up psychologically healthier than about 79% of people who don't get treatment.
79%. Wow.
Yeah. And it's not just self-report. There's even neuroimaging research, brain scan studies showing actual changes in brain function associated with effective therapy.
Okay, so therapy works. That's clear. But then the next question, and this is the one I find fascinating. Does the type of therapy matter? Is, like, CBT better than psychodynamic or something else?
Ah, yes. This leads us to one of the most debated and interesting findings in the field. It's often called the dodo bird verdict.
A dodo bird verdict, like from Alice in Wonderland.
Exactly like from Alice in Wonderland. Remember the caucus race where the dodo bird declares everybody has won and all must have prizes?
Yeah.
Well, in therapy research, it refers to the consistent finding that no single type of mainstream therapy, whether it's client-centered, psychodynamic, CBT, experiential, you name it, has been reliably proven to be more effective than the others for most common problems.
Okay, so they all work about the same. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's been found again and again. So
Well,
what did that tell us? Well, researchers propose a few explanations. Maybe the biggest one is the idea of common factors. These are the shared elements present across all effective therapies, regardless of their specific theory.
common factors, like what?
Things like a strong therapeutic relationship, that trust and connection between helper and client, instilling hope, providing new learning experiences, allowing for emotional arousal and expression, enhancing feelings of mastery or self-efficacy, giving opportunities to practice new behaviors.
So it's less about the brand name and more about these underlying ingredients.
That's a major perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
It also suggests that maybe who the therapist is, their empathy, their skill in building relationships, and who the client is, their motivation, their resources might matter more than the specific textbook approach.
Hmm.
Also think about how interconnected we are. Change often starts at one level, maybe behavior, but then it ripples out to affect thoughts and emotions or vice versa. Different therapies might just start at different entry points.
Okay.
And, some argue our research methods might just not be sophisticated enough yet to detect subtle differences. Or maybe it's about fit. People might just do better with approaches that align with their own personality or worldview.
Right, like finding a therapist whose style just clicks with you.
Exactly. That click might be reflecting those common factors in action.
Okay, thinking back to Angeli, feeling lonely and lost. It's clearly not just about fixing a problem. It sounds like helping can do much more. What are some of those deeper positive outcomes?
Oh, absolutely. The potential benefits are huge.
Huh.
One really profound one is offering a corrective relational experience.
Corrective relational experience.
Yeah. For someone who's maybe had difficult or damaging relationships in the past, therapy can offer a chance to experience a healthy, trusting, non-damaging, intimate relationship. Almost like reparenting in some ways. Think of Kanja in the book feeling unwanted by her mother for years. Through therapy, experiencing unconditional acceptance, she started to heal those old wounds and learn to build healthy relationships outside therapy.
Wow, that's powerful.
It really is. And then there's the more immediate support and relief. Just having someone validate your feelings during a tough time, like Joseph after his breakup, can make a huge difference in mood and coping.
Just being heard.
Exactly. Helping also facilitates gaining insight, understanding yourself, your patterns, your motivations in a new way. Like the soldier Kraft described, who couldn't walk due to conversion hysteria, but regained his ability after gaining insight into his grief over his buddy's death.
Incredible.
And it helps people grapple with existential concerns. The big questions: who am I? Where am I going? What do I want out of life? Like Azora exploring her values to figure out how to combine career and family.
Yeah.
Plus, a very practical benefit: learning skills. Helpers can teach concrete skills, communication, conflict resolution, assertiveness, decision-making, stress management, like Oost learning to be more assertive, or Anton improving study skills.
So it's practical tools too.
Definitely. It assists in making decisions, aligning choices with dreams and values, and sometimes helpers provide gentle, honest feedback about how a client comes across, which can be motivating. Ultimately, the goal is teaching self-sufficiency, like teaching someone to skate you offer support initially, then you let them go off on their own. Empowerment, not dependence.
Okay, that's a really positive picture. But you mentioned pitfalls earlier. While helping is mostly beneficial, we need to be real about the potential downsides, the problematic aspects.
Yes, it's crucial to be aware of these. It's not always straightforward. One subtle danger is enabling maladaptive situations.
How so?
Well, sometimes the support provided might offer just enough relief that the person feels okay enough to stay in an unhealthy situation, like a damaging relationship or a dead-end job, without gaining the insight needed to make a real change.
Ah, I see. Like putting a bandage on something that needs deeper attention.
Kinda, yeah. Another big one is creating dependency. The goal is client autonomy, but sometimes clients can become overly reliant on their helper. Maybe they can't make small decisions without checking in, or, like Kathleen in the book, declining an invitation because her helper's on vacation.
Right, counterproductive.
Very. And sometimes this dependency can unfortunately be fueled by the helper's own issues. If a helper is lonely or needs to feel needed, they might unintentionally encourage that reliance.
Ooh, that's tricky.
It requires real self-awareness from the helper. And then there's the significant issue of imposing values.
How does that show up?
It can be overt, like trying to change someone's sexual orientation or dictating religious beliefs, but often it's much more subtle, pushing certain gender roles or imposing individualistic values on someone from a collectivist culture where family harmony is paramount.
So even biases we aren't fully aware of.
Exactly. Even Carl Rogers, the champion of non-directiveness, was observed subtly reinforcing clients when they expressed insight, showing how hard it is to be completely neutral. We all have values, but we have to be careful not to impose them.
That's a huge responsibility.
It is. And finally, a very practical systemic problem: cost and accessibility. Quality mental health care is often expensive, difficult to access, creating huge barriers, especially for marginalized communities. That's an ethical challenge for the whole field.
Yeah, a really significant one. So given all these complexities and the potential barriers, when do people actually decide to seek help? What pushes them over the edge?
Well, research suggests two things generally need to happen. First, the person has to be aware that they're in pain or struggling, and crucially, they have to perceive it as a problem that needs addressing. What feels problematic varies hugely from person to person.
Okay, awareness and seeing it as a problem.
Second, and this is key, the level of pain or distress must become greater than the perceived barriers to getting help.
Ah, the barriers. Like what?
They could be practical lack of time, lack of money, difficulty finding someone, but often they're emotional. Things like embarrassment or shame, fear of what they might uncover if they dig deep. Stigma is still huge, worrying about being labeled mentally ill.
Right.
Sometimes a strong belief in self-reliance, particularly in cultures like the U.S., or not wanting to seem weak, which can be tied to gender norms. Fear of being judged, like Candace worrying about judgment over past abortions, or concerns about confidentiality, insurance, even employment.
Lots of hurdles.
Definitely. Sunny's story in the book is a good example. She faced multiple huge stressors: her mother's suicide, sister's depression, failing classes, a breakup, immense pain.
Yeah.
But she initially hesitated because of stigma and cost concerns.
Yeah.
It was only when the pain truly outweighed those barriers, and importantly, her brother shared his own positive therapy experience, that she finally reached out.
So social support can really play a role.
A huge role. Friends and family often encourage someone to seek professional help, like Joe's daughters, getting him to attend a grief support group. And people usually turn to friends and family first before going to a professional.
Okay. So knowing all this, what does it mean for someone listening who wants to become a helper? Let's talk about that journey, becoming an effective helper.
Right. Clara Hill's model is really helpful here. She talks about three essential components that are all interconnected. You really need all three.
Okay, what are they?
First, obviously, being able to use helping skills. These are the specific techniques, the how-to of helping, things we'll explore throughout these deep dives.
Skills. Got it.
Second, being self-aware. This means understanding your own thoughts, feelings, biases, values, how you react to things. Knowing your own stuff.
Self-awareness.
Crucial, absolutely. And third, having a facilitative attitude. This includes things like empathy, warmth, genuineness, compassion, being non-judgmental. It's about the stance you take towards the client.
Skills, self-awareness, and a facilitative attitude. The three legs of the stool, maybe.
That's a great way to put it. You need all three for stability. And often, it starts with what Hill calls a natural inclination.
Ah, right. You mentioned earlier many people drawn to this field were maybe the good listeners in their friend group, right? Seem to have some emotional intelligence, a real passion for helping others.
Exactly. They might have learned some basic communication skills just through life experience. But, and this is critical, that natural inclination isn't enough on its own. It has to be augmented by learning and practicing specific helping skills.
Okay, so instinct isn't enough.
No. And it can even feel awkward at first. Remember she and Ag's story? Her father joked he liked her a lot more before she began studying helping skills because her early attempts felt clumsy and unnatural.
Ha, Yeah, I can imagine that.
It's totally normal. It fits Goldfried's stages of learning any new behavior.
Hmm.
You start maybe unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. Then you learn the skill and you become consciously incompetent. You know you're awkward.
Right, that painful awareness stage.
Exactly. Your confidence might dip, but with practice, you move to conscious competence. You can do it if you focus. And finally, unconscious competence, where it becomes natural, almost second nature. That's the goal.
So pushing through that awkward phase is key.
Absolutely. And that self-awareness piece is ongoing. It's both a general trait knowing yourself and a state being aware in the moment during a session. Why? Because you have to be able to separate your own reactions, your own triggers from what the client is bringing.
To avoid projecting your own stuff onto them.
Precisely. And this includes cultural awareness, understanding your own cultural biases and how they might affect the interaction. It's a huge part of ethical practice.
And the facilitative attitude, you said it's not just a personality trait.
Right. It's more about your in-the-moment feelings and stance towards a specific client. It can fluctuate. You might feel more empathy for one client than another or feel more challenged by someone. The goal is to cultivate that genuine warmth, respect, and non-judgment as consistently as possible.
Okay, so let's reiterate. Skills alone, not enough. Attitude and awareness alone, also not enough. You need all three working together.
You got it. They're completely intertwined.
So how do you actually learn these skills? What's the process of learning to be a helper look like?
Well, the good news is research clearly shows that helping skills training works. It's effective. And it usually builds on Bandura's social learning theory, incorporating 4 key elements.
Or elements of
First, instruction. Reading the book, listening to lectures like this, deep dive, gaining the knowledge about the skills and the theory behind them.
Right, learning the concepts.
Second, modeling. Watching experienced helpers demonstrate the skills effectively. Videos, live demonstrations.
Seeing it in action?
Third, practice. This is arguably the most crucial part, trying out the skills yourself again and again in different scenarios. Research consistently finds this is the most helpful component of training.
Practice, practice, practice.
You bet. And fourth, feedback. Getting constructive input on your practice attempts from instructors, supervisors, and peers.
Instruction, modeling, practice, feedback. Makes sense. And you emphasized serious practice earlier, not just messing around in class.
Absolutely. If you're in a skills class or lab, treat it seriously. When you're playing the client, talk about a real, though perhaps low-stakes problem you're facing. When you're the helper, genuinely try to listen and use the skills you're learning. That's where the real learning solidifies. Avoid just nervous laughter or a superficial chat.
Got it. Treat the practice like the real
Good
thing,
one.
within limits.
Exactly. And there are different ways to practice. You might do individual exercises like writing out responses to scenarios, but the core is often group practice exercises or labs.
Labs.
This is where you typically work in small groups, taking turns being the helper, the client, and observers who provide feedback.
And then what about sharing personal stuff as the client in these labs? That sounds potentially intense.
That's a really important point. Ethical guidelines, like the APA's Standard 7.04, state students shouldn't be required to disclose deep personal information. The focus should always be on learning the helper skills. So when you're the client in a lab, choose easy, safe topics only. Things you feel comfortable discussing relatively superficially. Exhibit 1.1 in the book gives good examples, maybe stress about an upcoming exam, deciding on weekend plans, not deep trauma or major life crises.
Okay, safe topics only. That's a relief. And confidentiality.
Paramount. Treat everything shared in a practice session as confidential. Discuss it only with your supervisor or classmates for the purpose of learning and improving skills, not as gossip.
Good. And what about being the volunteer client? Any benefits there?
Huge benefits. You get firsthand experience of what these skills feel like from the receiving end. It builds empathy and helps you appreciate the courage it takes for real clients to open up. But again, it's not therapy. If you need support, seek actual therapy.
Right. And practicing with friends? Tricky.
It can be. The key advice is to try and pretend you know nothing beyond what your friend reveals in that practice session. Focus only on their immediate experience, like Nancy did with Katrine in the book example, responding to her friend's feelings about a current issue, not bringing in past history.
Setting boundaries even in practice. Okay. And feedback. How do you give good feedback to peers in those labs?
It's a skill in itself. A good model is the sandwich approach. Start with something genuinely positive you observed. Then, offer one specific, concrete, behavioral piece of constructive criticism, something they could actually change. Then maybe end with another positive or encouraging comment.
Start positive, one concrete suggestion, end positive.
Yeah. And remember, the person who played the client often has the most valuable feedback on how it felt to receive the help, followed by the observers who saw the interaction.
That makes sense.
And these labs can be incredibly impactful. There's a powerful story of a student's grad school application essay.
Oh, yeah.
She wrote about being a client in a lab, feeling overwhelmed by the kindness shown to her. Then, later she was the helper and witnessed a classmate have this profound, cathartic emotional release during their practice session. She said that moment solidified everything, knowing that helping people explore their inner worlds and reduce suffering was just innately right for her. It shows the power of these experiences.
Wow. That's powerful. Okay, one last crucial area we absolutely have to touch on, ethics.
Absolutely critical. Because helping involves vulnerability and trust, the potential for harm, even unintentional harm, is real. So ethics aren't just suggestions, they're foundational.
Right. So what are ethics exactly in this context?
Ethics are essentially principles and standards that guide professional conduct. They're designed to ensure the quality of service, protect client rights, and ensure helpers act responsibly and legally. It's useful to distinguish between aspirational ethical principles, the ideals we strive for, enforceable standards, the specific rules we must follow, and personal morality, which are our individual beliefs about right and wrong. As beginners, focusing on the principles is key.
And instructors have a big role here.
Yes, instructors have an ethical responsibility to educate students about these issues, things like appropriate disclosure in class, informed consent, and especially confidentiality in practice sessions.
Okay. So what are some of those core ethical principles?
There are 6 basic principles, often cited, building on work by Beauchamp and Childress, Kitchener, and others. First is autonomy,
Autonomy.
respecting the client's right to make their own choices and decisions as long as they don't harm others. Like Shakira supporting her client's choice to pursue music, even if her parents disapprove.
Okay.
Makes sense. Second, beneficence. This is the intention to do good, to promote the client's growth and well-being, providing services that are likely to be helpful, ideally based on evidence.
Do good. Got it.
Third, nonmaleficence. This is a big one. Above all, do no harm, avoiding actions that could cause physical or psychological harm. Remembering Frederick, who unintentionally harmed his client by carelessly revealing confidential information.
Do no harm. Crucial.
Fourth, justice. This means fairness and equality, providing equal treatment and ensuring fair distribution of resources and opportunities. It includes the responsibility to try and make services accessible, maybe through volunteering or advocating for change.
Fairness.
Fifth, fidelity. This is about being trustworthy, faithful, keeping promises, honoring commitments like showing up for sessions consistently, being reliable. It builds the therapeutic relationship.
Trustworthiness.
Yeah. Sixth, veracity. Simply put, telling the truth. Being honest with clients. Like Takesha's helper, giving her honest, though maybe difficult, feedback about blaming others, which ultimately helped Takesha grow.
Truthfulness. Okay, so autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, justice, fidelity, veracity, those are the guiding stars.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah. They guide ethical decision-making.
Wow. We've really covered a lot of ground here, from defining helping and seeing that, yes, it really does work, to understanding the skills, the vital importance of self-awareness, the right attitude, and the ethical framework. It feels like a solid map for starting this journey.
It really is a foundation, and I love the bibimbap metaphor used in the book. Think of learning helping skills like making that Korean dish.
Bibimbap. How so?
You gather all these different ingredients, different theories, skills, insights from your own experience, feedback you receive.
Yeah.
You add what resonates with you, maybe set aside things that don't fit right now, and then you mix it all together.
Oh.
You create your own unique, cohesive, personal approach to helping. It's not about rigidly following one recipe. It's about constructing your bowl, your way of being a helper. And it's an ongoing process. You keep refining it.
I like that. Building your own bowl of helping skills. Okay, so as we wrap up, here's something for you, the listener, to think about. Reflect on a time when someone truly helped you. Not just offered advice, but really helped. What specific things did they do or say that made that difference? And how can you take that understanding, that felt sense of being helped, and apply it to how you approach being a helper for others?
That's a great reflection. Because this field, it really does take dedication, ongoing learning, lots of practice. But the rewards, seeing someone explore, gain insight, take action to change their life, they are truly immense. So keep practicing, keep learning, keep building that unique bowl.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the foundations of helping based on Chapter 1 of Hill's Helping Skills. We hope you feel a bit more equipped, a bit more grounded for your own path in counseling and psychology practice. Until next time.